What's up, investors? It's the Russian dude. Last week, President Vladimir Putin presided over a meeting of the Council for Civil Society and Human Rights. Such a gathering suggests that the Kremlin might be ready to address matters of public welfare or personal liberties. The name of the meeting itself suggests so pretty unambiguously. But knowing Putin, he once again spoke about his new weapon system called as Oreshnik, an advanced set of hypersonic missiles with a destructive power similar of nuclear armaments. Only he could have paired discussions of human rights with praise for a devastating missile system. And he spoke about the weapon of mass destruction and its capabilities with such joy on his face. But in the midst of his selfless narrative, he involuntarily revealed the true characteristics of his new favorite toy, which are much less destructive than originally mentioned. The glorified weapon turned out to be a complete sham, barely different or advanced from regular missiles. And as the week progressed, we learned even more concerning facts about the state of the Russian military, which is that its ranks deplete way faster than originally anticipated. So, in today's video, let's talk about these two pretty horrible for Putin facts that revealed themselves recently. In late November, addressing leaders from Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Tajikistan and Belarus at a summit in Astana, Putin delivered a lecture on Oreshnik, mentioning that the non-nuclear version of the system carried a force similar to traditional nuclear weapons. He even tried to temper the disbelief in the room by saying that these leaders had personally requested details on the system. Obviously, nobody asked him to do it, but, well, he did it anyways. Still, the claim itself defies ordinary reason. The historical benchmark of nuclear strength is the Hiroshima bomb, which was measured at approximately 13 to 18 kilotons. This figure equates to the explosive power of tens of thousands of tons of TNT. Oreshnik destructive force reaches 900 kilotons, more than 60 Hiroshimas, when carrying actual nuclear warheads. When using conventional warhead or no warhead at all, the force, according to Putin, still surpasses Hiroshima nuke. Yet even the official characteristics of Oreshnik mention that it can carry a maximum warhead weight of up to 1.5 tons, a little bit under tens of thousands tons of TNT that Putin allegedly claimed. Just a little bit. Putin found the explanation here as well. Oreshnik system, according to him, supposedly relies on kinetic impact rather than the explosive charges, delivering a warhead at immense speeds of over 3 km per second, almost 2 miles per second. A meteor-like strike, Putin claims, will emulate the destructive force of a nuclear blast. But these assertions crumble upon the simplest, like literally middle school physical calculations. To match just the Hiroshima bomb's yield, a non-explosive warhead would have to weigh the equivalent of thousands of subway cars. In other words, no known history system could realistically achieve such mass and velocity. What is offered to the public is less of a serious military claim and more of a propaganda. No surprise here. Oreshnik system, if it exists in the destructive force portrait, cannot disobey the laws of physics. In reality, the impact looks more like just heavy metal parts falling to the ground at speeds of far exceeding supersonic ones. So as a result, we just get a loud bang, not a meteor-like impact, capable of erasing cities and creating new lakes and craters. Just when you thought Putin might start telling at least some sort of truth, he failed us once again. By the way, guys, if you want to see the Oreshnik work in action, not sure if I can show it here on YouTube, but I will upload some videos on Patreon. The link to my Patreon is down below. While the Kremlin speaks grudgingly of new weapons, the actual condition of the Russian military worsened significantly in the last several weeks. Both pro-war bloggers and military analysts inside Russia agree that the army is facing an incredible manpower shortage. Even as missiles take center stage in official speeches, the brutal truth is that ground forces are desperately short of capable infantry. This shortfall has led to unsettling methods of replenishment, such as ramped-up recruitment drives, inflated signing bonuses, and severe pressure on conscripts to sign contracts in form of blackmail or deceive. In recent years, internal mobilization has increased, and the practice of relocating personnel trained in logistics, maintenance, or even those with rare technical specializations to serve as a frontline stormtroopers has become disturbingly common. Just because there are no statements of mobilization or mobilization announcements, it does not mean that it's not happening. In fact, that's quite the opposite. The regime of Putin skillfully hides any draft activity and covers up any evidence, so that there is no feeling that something is happening. We spoke about it in more details in our previous episodes, so in case you missed it, definitely give it a watch after you finish this video. The immediate goal seems to be putting together enough bodies to seize another Ukrainian village or at least an abandoned barn in the open field. But the long-term result is the erosion of the army's overall competence and sustainability. These desperate efforts have escalated to using severely injured service members as active soldiers. Amputees who should have been discharged and returned home are now reportedly being sent back to the front lines with no proper rehabilitation. According to Colonel Denis Kovlen of the Defense Medical Academy, over 80% of soldiers missing one or more limbs return to service following prosthetic rehabilitation. This is already horrible enough, which goes against all the conventions, treaties and agreements about how you should fight a war. You would not wish upon your worst enemy to get back to fighting while not having legs or arms. But this is what the regime of Putin does. Believe it or not, the reports from the front lines and viral videos on Telegram tell even grimmer stories. Soldiers missing arms or legs, receiving minimal care and pleading to be evacuated, are left in whatever condition they were found. The promise of rehabilitation does not match the reality of their deployment. Some of such soldiers who are loud enough to get attention on the internet can even be consciously sent to meet assaults with zero chances of survival. That's just one of the ways how the Russian military commanders eliminate the evidence and threat. If such accounts were offered only by Ukrainian media, they might be dismissed as Ukrainian propaganda. Instead, these revelations came from pro-war Russian sources themselves, leaving the public to confront a very uncomfortable truth. But it does not end here. Forcible contract signings and forged signatures on critical documents further complicate the picture. Recently adopted laws permit conscripts to sign a contract as soon as they arrive at the barracks, a process that once took months and allowed young men time to understand what they were getting into. Now, unsuspecting 18-year-olds can be coerced, deceived, or intimidated into signing away their safety. In extreme cases, outright violence and even murder took place. Signatures have been forged on entire units' contracts. Some families only discover this fraud when lump sum contract payments appear in their son's account shortly before they're deployed to combat zones. So theoretically, everything is kinda legal. You sign a contract, you receive a payment, so now please go inside the trench next. Some families even try to sue the defense ministry. And yes, I did not make a mistake here. Regular Russians tried to win in court against the Ministry of Defense of Russia because of some war-related disputes. Sounds like a comedy sketch on Saturday Night Live, but, well, that's the dark reality in Russia. By the time forensic experts confirmed that the signature was forged, the young conscript may already have been killed. Such sinister recruitment tactics also include abducting young men from public transport or even tricking them out of their homes by cutting electricity and luring them outside. As a result, we have unwilling, unmotivated, and untrained person who is about to fight the war he does not support. What are the odds he will become a super soldier? I mean, imagine it yourself. A conscript is somebody who most likely never held a gun in his hands. When the war started, some of them were used along the front lines, but before it actually happened, they had at least a couple of months of some kind of training. At least they were able to understand what was going on and what was expected. Even the basic knowledge and training is better than no knowledge at all. Because in some extreme cases that are happening right now, conscripts can literally be taken right from the draft offices straight to the front lines. The idea here, if you can call it this way, is that they will receive an expedited survival course from the soldiers on the front lines. What's the point of wasting several months learning how to march and make your bed, when you can start shooting within a couple of days? Yes, The risk of never making it past week 1 is greater, but so does the return. Russian officers think that if at least a couple of conscripts out of dozens similar comrades makes it past first month, this can be considered as a recruitment success. After all, for them this war is just statistics and military reports, so highly demanded by their own generals, who later pass on these reports to Putin. What do we have as a result? The number of soldiers increases, the Russian military somehow advances, Putin is happy. That's all he cares about. "We don't care how you do it, just do it," is literally the slogan of the Putin's army. Nearly 3 years into the full-scale Russian-Ukrainian war, the strategic dynamics have shifted repeatedly. Western-supplied weaponry from drones to long-range missiles has altered the battlefield. Yet these modern arms do not guarantee swift victory. Both sides struggle with fatigue and dwindling manpower. Unfortunately, I've been speaking with my Ukrainian uncle, cousins and their families, and all of them want the war to end, no matter the end result. They are tired. And I cannot blame them. There is a war literally in their homeland, and all of us are just the observers, so it is easy for us to make assumptions and conclusions. All of us understand that if Ukraine is to give up, it will only buy them 5-10 years until Putin finds another reason to invade. That's the biggest dilemma. And that's unfortunately what Putin was counting on the whole time, since his 3-day war failed. He knew since the beginning that if swift victory is not attainable, Russia has much more resources just to exhaust Ukrainians, both military and regular people. And looks like this is what is happening right now. I'm not referring, by the way, here to the Russian propaganda narrative, no. I'm almost literally quoting my Ukrainian uncle. That is his statement, his sentiment, the sentiment of his family, and the sentiment of most of his friends and relatives around him. In the meantime, the Russian propaganda machine never stops working. It continues to report on Ukraine's mobilization difficulties and expansion of its own conscription efforts, but they say nothing of the Kremlin's own desperate attempts to press more Russian youth into uniform. They celebrate the capture of a Ukrainian village without acknowledging that these meager territorial gains are purchased with the lives of Russia's working-age men. Those who could have built families, contributed to the economy, and secured the nation's future. Instead, they vanished in meaningless assaults. And then back in Russia, if they survive, they are replaced by growing reliance on migrant labor. The Russian authorities then wonder why the birth rate is declining, why families hesitate to have children, and why the Russian workforce is evaporating. They ask these questions, perfectly knowing the answers. Well, there you have it. If you enjoyed today's episode, please subscribe to my channel for more videos like this. If you wish to support my work, there are links down below. Thanks so much for watching. See you tomorrow.
We won't succumb to their tricks, the facade they try to sell. Their twisted words and feeble claims on us all they cannot quell. We see through their lies, their feeble attempts to sway. We do not believe in ridiculous Russian propaganda.